I was going to say, Lori has our phone numbers, our captain that's generally out here touching base with her. In fact, last night he heard her in the crowd and never met her before, but he's like, I hear Lori. And he sought her out last night. So we have that connection. We'll make sure that we continue that, and the emergency services will continue to be here. The deputies are here overnight. They're going to be here throughout the days while we're going through all of this, recognizing that there are families trying to get back into their homes, trying to assess their own damage. I can tell you, so when we were walking up, there was a family, and I'm sure they don't want to be called out right now, but they lost their home. They had just beat the storm out because of the warnings that they had received. It's a family with small children. They were getting food. They're happy to have people taking care of them. They're very thankful. That's all I've heard from so many people, how thankful they are for the Yes Communities team, for all the responders last night, for the Salvation Army. United Way has offered help, as well as the American Red Cross. And so again, we are very fortunate. I'm looking around the crowd here, and I'm seeing people that were walking around handing out water to their neighbors last night. They've been a strong part of this. We talk about these organizations all the time, but these organizations are only as strong as our community allows us to be, and this is a strong community.
Well, I know that St. Louis and Undone and a lot of emergency departments that will, try to help when you find local You're welcome to You're performing a very important part of this, actually. Thank you. I might. Kyle.
I got it set up today.
Yeah, that's right. still needing volunteers. I think if you hustle, you can make it.
I mean, I have like.
Not very long. I've been speaking with them since the morning. Yeah. But also, I just like a signage.
Already? Jeez. Yeah, just turn that on, just to give it a little extra.
Second to get organized. All right, so hi everyone. I am here to kind of have an opportunity to thank the first responders and chat with community members and assess the devastation that this community has been through in the last 24 hours. I'm joined by Sheriff Fuller, who has briefed me at this Emergency Operations Center, and Senator Sean McCann, as well as a lot of first responders and people who are on the ground doing the work. So it's, I'll just share a couple of quick thoughts and then happy to open it up, and certainly the Senator and the Sheriff are happy to answer questions too. Feel very lucky that this didn't result in fatalities, but the devastation's real. There are a lot of displaced families, a lot of businesses that have been that are going to struggle because of the wake of this, and that's why it was important that we declared the emergency last night so that we can expedite support. State departments are on the ground, from Department of Transportation to the state police to any and all entities that are going to be necessary to help this community get back on its feet. But the most inspiring thing is seeing fellow neighbors help one another, listening to the sheriff tell me stories about families that were actually inside homes that were moved off their foundations, and that families of survival, stories of survival. So even in tough times, there's inspiration, but we've got a lot of important work to do ahead of us. So that'll open it up.
Governor Whitmer, this isn't the first time that we've seen a mobile home community decimated after a tornado. We had this in Gaylord just a few years ago. Is there more regulations that can be put in place to keep people safer in these types of situations who live in these communities?
Well, one of the interesting things that one of the folks from Portage said was that there were fewer homes that were lifted off their foundation because they did begin requiring the use of hurricane strips. I've never even heard the phrase before, but this is apparently an additional safety measure to help keep mobile homes on their foundations. So perhaps that's one example of something that, a policy that helped perhaps save people's property and maybe lives in this moment. But certainly I think with climate change, the continuous increase of devastating events like this, we've got to continue to evolve as well as we think about how do we protect one another and how do we combat these impacts of climate change too.
Can you talk about the resources the state is making available to try to help people impacted by these storms?
So declaring the state of emergency gives us the opportunity to mobilize resources across state government. Obviously, we're still in the assessment phase, so there's no finite number as to what we think the need will be. That will evolve as more information comes in and as all of the assessments are done, and I'll work with the legislature to make sure that we've got the appropriate state support for the community.
Governor, you, I'm sure, saw a bunch of videos and pictures of all the damage last night. How does that compare to seeing it here in person today?
I mean, it's just to see trees that are snapped in half and to see on the national news, a community that's so impacted right here at home, I think is eye-opening. You can't walk through here and not understand that. While we feel really lucky that people lost their lives, we know that a lot of people lost everything they have. And so it's a profound sense of gratitude that everyone's alive, but also lost because some people lost everything, and that's why pulling together and supporting one another is really important.
You mentioned climate change. Weather disasters like this something that you guys have to get prepared for?
I think so. I think it's undeniable that when you look at from the tornadoes that swept through across I-96 last year, or Gaylord, or the incredible flooding events that we have swamped our highways, and ice storms. I mean, we're seeing intense impacts from climate change, and so I do think that it's important that we acknowledge that as we try to build out systems that keep us safe here, but also curtail our impact on climate change as well.
What do you make of the community response? We've seen people starting to bring food and other necessities. Does that surprise you at all, just seeing people coming forward like that?
It doesn't surprise me one iota, but it is always wonderful to see in the wake of a really scary event how communities pull together. And I know that Sheriff Fuller and Senator McCann and I were chatting a little bit about how people just started showing up. As soon as the tornado was gone, people whose homes were intact came out to help those whose weren't, and have started within minutes of the tornado moving.
Guys, we have time for just a couple more questions.
Any questions for the sheriff or the senator as well? Happy.
I'll just point out that I've been trying to coordinate between lots of officials, and I've reached out to Senator Stabenow and Senator Peters' office as well to make sure that on the FEMA front that there's going to be notification and get that ball rolling to get any federal assistance that's going to be eligible for the area. And I just also say, we've often observed pretty much every year the tornado that went through downtown Kalamazoo, 1970s, and it's a sad thing that we'll probably have two of those kinds of anniversaries in our communities now. Sheriff?
Yeah, I would agree. Next week we will be celebrating, that's a bad word to say, recognizing, I believe, the 44th anniversary of the 1980 tornado that came through Kalamazoo. That tornado did devastating damage downtown in the city of Kalamazoo. It took 5 lives. Today, we're not talking about the loss of life. I think many things have changed over time. There are better alerting systems. Last night I had so many people come to me and say, we were listening to Channel 3, we were paying attention to Channel 8, we had our radios on to tell us that it's coming. They got alerts on their phones saying it's coming. And so many people were able to take cover because of that. At the same time, we've also, I have to say, not ever really been standing in a place where a tornado went through and then about 45 minutes later, another tornado almost on the direct same path was coming through. So as emergency responders and citizens were standing in these streets trying to help one another, we were alerted a second tornado was coming in. We watched it go across the bottom of this park. It was a same direction, same kind of travel. Fortunately, it was just outside of the community because we had 100 people standing on Pavilion Drive working to help people or trying to find a shelter. So we were very fortunate, and I say thank you to all the services for all their extra work. I was standing out here at one point. I did hear the sirens from Portage after the first tornado went through, and I apologize. The second tornado was part of that alert system. We could all hear the sirens as well from Portage, but we weren't here for the first one, so we don't know what level of siren was utilized the first time.
And Governor and Senator, when it comes to federal aid or potential federal aid, based on what you've seen already, do you believe that is necessary? And if so, what would the state do to advocate for residents here to get that federal aid?
We can put in your request once there's been an assessment, and we can put some figures to the request. And so that's why the work of all the people that are here that are trying to take into account all the different damage that's happened is so important right now. So, but until we have that, I can't submit anything to the federal government, and that's why we're going to try to move fast here.
Folks, that's about all the time we have. I am sorry. Thank you all so much.
Just want to encourage anyone who is worried about where they're going to sleep tonight to make sure that they're talking with the Red Cross and reaching out through the sheriff's office, or sheriff. Where should they reach out?
211 is our resource for this. We're trying to drive all our requests for information to 211. Griffin Place operates that for our county, and again, they are loaded with all kinds of information to help people find shelter, find food, connect, making sure that everybody knows where someone is, and that's where we ask people to go, 211.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Governor, sure.
Great work. Yeah, don't worry. I bet your arm was getting so tight, man. I bet you started out breaking sweat too. I bet.
My back is paying me for the TVU. Shoulder feels fine now.
Yeah, we're like chasing him around. Like, oh, you're talking. Like, let's shimmy up. I appreciate the effort. She was trying to.
No, I am too.
Yeah. Capital N. Yeah, capital N.
Great. I'm going to invite some others to join in. I've got to get going right now.
Consumer energy reps about to talk.
Okay.
I would like to talk to you right now.